I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. And I am done. Okay, so I just finished up listening to Blood of Elves. This is book number 3 or 1, depending on how you look at it, in the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. And I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was just right now. So, yeah, this book is okay. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 stars, which is usually the score that I give books that I have the predominant feeling of just okay to. And yeah, I liked it quite a bit less than the first short story collection that I read, The Last Witch, which I ended up giving a 4-star review, but it was kind of on the upper end of the 4 stars for me. I kind of messed up, not kind of, I definitely messed up, and I read this book out of order. I was supposed to read the second short story collection next, I don't even know the name of it, but I totally messed up. And I jumped straight to the full-length novels, which is what this one is. Although I don't really think that this mess-up ruined my reading experience, because I went and I read a recap of the story, and it didn't really surprise me about anything going on. I'm very familiar with The Witcher through the Witcher video games, and so I kind of know about these characters, and nothing really felt like it was out of place for me. And yeah, so I got that recap of the story, and I was able to kind of flow into this one without really missing anything. You know, what I liked about this story, and this is going to be rather short because I didn't love a ton of it, but what I really liked, which is kind of why it's still in that kind of middle ground territory for me. But I liked that the personalities here of all the characters that we got from the short stories, they got expanded in a lot more detail. And that could really only happen, in my opinion, in this longer format. You know, because in the short stories, you know, you've got these like really big breaks in the action, and it mostly all centers around Geralt. And you do get some other characters in there, but it's really hard in the short story format to really get a lot of character development. So I really liked that we got that in this story. You know, I feel like I like the characters so much from this series, in large part, I think, because I've been so obsessed with these video games for such a very long time. I mean, heck, I am currently replaying The Witcher 3 right now, which is a huge, long gaming experience, and I can't believe I've done this to myself again. But just kind of thinking about these books got me kind of dive back into it. I love this world, I love these characters. And I think that love for these characters really helped out the score here. And without that game kind of background that I have, I don't know that I would have liked this book as much as I did. I probably would have scored it more like a 2 out of 5. You know, I also really liked the world building here. Again, I think this is partially influenced from my love of the games. But this world is just, you know, it totally sucks me in. You know, I can kind of, again, video games, but I can kind of picture where everything's at. I can picture these characters so vividly, and I know about the different world powers here and what's going on and why it's going on, and so to hear it from this perspective of the book, it was a really enjoyable experience, and I really was sucked into this story. But unfortunately, these are really the only positives that I'm going to be able to say about this one. You know, this book, at the end of the day, is just way too slow. And it's way too isolated of a story. Now, I get that I'm a complicated person, and I've praised books that go overly slow before. Think Realm of the Elderlings. I've said that that's one of the positives of that story, is that it didn't go too fast. But this really took that to an extreme. I mean, for literally hundreds of pages here, and I can't know the exact page count because I was listening to this, but I've got a sense over time for how long you're listening and how that converts into pages. But for hundreds of pages here, the characters were just in one place, and there were only 4 characters, and it's really Geralt just spending time in one place with Ciri. And nothing happens other than just having conversations. It's one extended training montage that goes on for a really, really, really long time. And that's really unfortunate because when this scene started, when this book really, you know, fired off, we kind of got like this intro prologue with Dandelion, or Dandelion. It's weird because in the games it's Dandelion and the audiobook is Dandelion. And it's really weird to see something that so visually looks like Dandelion to me. I mean, I've got dandelions in my house. Not in my house, outside the house. and the Dandelion Dynasty, and then to hear the audiobook say Dandelion, it's just very strange. So I don't know what's going on there. But you get this intro with Dandelion, and then it goes straight into this scene at 𝐂𝐪𝐿. And it's cool. I liked it. I like seeing, I liked reading about 𝐂𝐪𝐿. I liked reading about the characters that are there. I liked the introduction and bringing in kind of Triss into the story. And then it just kind of keeps going on and on and on. And and then when you think it's over, it goes on even longer. It's kind of crazy. And I was talking on my Discord channel, and if you haven't joined the Discord, what are you doing? Click the link down below. It is the best adult fantasy Discord around. But I was like praising this book. I was like, this is awesome. I love this vibe. But then everything went downhill the longer we stayed in this scene. When the story eventually gets beyond that, and it takes a long time, but it really ended up just being political intrigue. Which I normally absolutely love. I mean, I work in politics. To be able to blend my passion for my work with my passion for books and fantasy books, it's great most of the time. But it just never really caught my interest here. And I'm already interested in the world through these games, but the events that occurred here, they never really felt very suspenseful. I think my expectations for this were too high. I kept hearing from people over and over that this series is amazing and groundbreaking. And it's not like a unanimous opinion like I do hear for some series. I don't really hear people say oh, A Song of Ice and Fire is weak. I never hear that from people, but I have heard mixed opinions on this, but the people that love it really, really, really love it. But I just don't see what's groundbreaking here. I don't see what's amazing. What I suspect is happening, and I don't know what country this is from. It might be Poland. I'm probably butchering that. But I know that Andrzej Sapkowski is the god of literature there, at least in terms of fantasy. And so regionally for where this came out, I could see it being really impactful and really important. But getting translated to this audience over here, to the wider audience where we're already, have so much other fantasy out there. This doesn't really do anything special, especially in the long format. I say especially in the long format because another thing that really frustrated me here was just how fun the short story format was for these stories. And this longer form just kind of destroyed all of the fun that the format was based on. Because The Witcher at its heart, right, is like this monster hunter who has these individual quests with these wonderful moral dilemmas. And the fun kind of spins out from having these classic fairy tales that have these twists to them, right? And we got literally none of that here in any format, in any way. It's just not what this book is trying to do. And I suspect what the books from here on out are trying to do. And that's unfortunate because the story at large here, it just is weak. And maybe it blows up. Maybe we get these epic moments. Maybe we get this really fun environment. And it's just not there. It's hard to put into words for me why it worked so well in short format opposed to this longer format. But in the short format, you've got Geralt, who is a bit of a dullard. He is, by nature, the Witcher has been, dried out from all emotion. And to have a main character not have any emotion is a hard thing to pull off as a writer because you want emotion, right? You want some more depth to a character. In the short stories, it works. You've got this emotionless person going and fighting these quests. And ultimately, the story is not about the Witcher. It's about these different, beasts or people that have these problems. And you've got this emotionless Witcher here dealing with these really interesting people and how he tries to logically go about solving these problems. But when the Witcher is now the forefront of the story, you're left with somebody that is just boring. And that's unfortunate. That sucks out all the fun. I think there was a lot of promise here, but the problem is that it lacked action. And I don't need pure action in a story, but for a story that is inherently a monster hunter, to not really be fighting any monsters anymore, to not really be engaging in these, the sword and sorcery type of stories anymore, it's just nothing here was horrible. But I ultimately just kind of felt very lukewarm about everything that occurred here. And yeah, so, I think I'm going to continue with the series. I'm going to go back and read the second short story collection, which I suspect that I'm going to rather like. But then I think I'm going to push through and read the fourth book. Let me know in the comments if what I've said now is, and you've read this, and I'm going to say, Matt, you're not going to like it. But let me know if there's a chance that this turns around, because I think I'm going to give it a chance. I liked it enough to want to just dip in to see what's going on. But I'm not enthusiastic about it. And, while I will prioritize reading that second one, this fourth book, the second in this greater series, will get knocked down my TBR pile, not an immense amount, especially because I'm listening to this in audiobook. And I'm always kind of desperate to find audiobooks that are really interesting. Because my TBR pile for my physical reads is, this big, and my TBR pile for audios is like this big. So, I will get around to it sometime, probably in a few months. But yeah, that's really going to be my last foray if it doesn't work out. And I'll just accept that the games are where it's at, and I'll have to be, really excited to keep replaying Witcher 3 until Witcher 4 comes out. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you so much for watching this review, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, Brian, CJ, Darren, Jonathan, My Book is Lit, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Anna, Andra, Angelo, Ben, Blair, Brock, Evan, Jen B, Harry B, Jamie, Jeff Pixler, Maria, Michael Sugarman, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion.